Hello and welcome to another Pimcore Casts tutorial. Today we are going to learn how to create a simple data object authentication. For this tutorial we use the local Docker setup, and you can find in the description the link to the YouTube tutorial from us. Okay, and let us start with the first step, and this would be to download our so let us start with the first step, and this would be the templates and the layout, also the a little CSS file. You can download it on the Pimcore Casts GitHub repository, and there is the tutorial simple out. I post also the link in the description so you can download the files. After you've downloaded the templates and CSS files, you need to insert this to your templates, out and layout files. After you've copied these files, we can now show the files what's inside. So I opened the login HTML twig file, and you can see this is now special here. You can extend the layout, default layout, and if we open this file, there is only the header and the block for the content. We add the link, the CDN links for the Bootstrap version and also the JavaScript version. And in this line you can see our custom style sheet, CSS style CSS. The register HTML twig file, that's maybe the same, but some naming changes, and you can find here the password and the password confirm input field. Then we have the CSS style CSS, and there is also no special things inside, changes for the radius and the corners, so we will see it later. The next step will be to create the user class in our Pimcore. So we open the settings, data objects, classes, and I resize my browser window and add here a user class with the user identifier. Okay, we need to add a panel, and we need to add two input fields, one input and one password field. So we name this username. This should be later on the email address, and the password field for the password. So the password hash is the algorithm we use. Okay, I saved this, and we need to create a user folder. So okay, we leave this at the moment and go to the data objects and home. We create, click on the right mouse button, add folder, and call it users, and then we add the test user. I call it test at test.com. The username should be the same, test at test.com, and the password we used test. And you can see the object isn't published at the moment, and I go to the drop down and say save and publish, and you can see it's published. Okay, the next step will be to add a controller, and we need an authentication controller with the login action, logout action, and register action. I add a new file file. Maybe I copy the default controller and name it Auth Controller. I remove the comments here, and yeah, that's okay. So I save this. You can see the Auth Controller, and it extends the front-end controller. I add at the top a route, and this route is for the class, so every action get prefixed with this route and get the name also as prefix. And in the default action we create a route called login and name it login. Okay, and here we can change the renders source to auth login, and maybe this is uppercase R. Yes, auth login HTML. So we use this file to render. Then we need a register action. We also add a route register and return our render out register HTML twig file. And then we need the logout function, and we also get the logout route, and here we return the redirect to route, and we redirect to our login route. You can see simple out is the prefix and login is the name of the action. Okay, so we had the controller and we had the view files inside. Now maybe we can test the login page and we get an exception because none of the change routers were able to generate the route dashboard. Yes, we copy the default controller and add a dashboard controller for our login. This get the route dashboard, maybe /dashboard, so we can see the redirect later on. We leave the content and the renderer to the default page from Pimcore, and we look if the router can generate. Yes, so yes, we can see now our login page. So I zoom in a little bit. Okay, an email address and password sign in button, register button, and our headline. Now we open the twig file and you can see here the form. The form is a post form and we post it to our current action, to the login route. Here is a target path, and target path redirects us to the dashboard. If the authentication is successful, we redirect to our target, maybe the dashboard. And the email address, you can see here the input is from type email, but the name is _username. This is a default name by the Symfony. And here you can see the _password is also in Symfony default. Here is the sign in button. This is from type submit, so we can submit the form and log in. Or you haven't user account, you can register. Okay, we save this and that looks great. Okay. On the authentication controller, we need here some functionalities. for the login. But first of all, we need to override our user class from Pimcore. And we do this here, and I create a new file in the model data object user file. Model data object user file. I add the namespace here, app model data object, and the user PHP get a class, and the class called user, and we extend our Pimcore model data object user and call it base user. So extends base user, and we need to implement our user interface. Sorry, that's the wrong user interface. We need the Symfony core user interface, and also a password authentication user interface. Okay. Now we can create our public functions called erase credentials, and we also need a public function called get roles, and here we return an array and the array is role user. Now we also need the get user identifier function. This returns a string, and this is our username, this get username. Okay, so let us add the erase credentials. I call this the field, and we get from our user class this get class, our base user class, the get field definition password. So we know now the definition of the password. I add here the password field definition, so data object class definition data password, only for auto completion, and we say field get data for resource, the get password field. Okay, now we need to add there a return value, and the return value is void. We don't need some returns, and now we need to override the default user class from Pimcore. This we can do under config. There is a model class overrides, and I can here add the Pimcore model data object user and say take please my custom app model data object user. After the override is done, we need to add some services. Okay, we add two services, and I call this simple auth.security user provider, and the user provider is a Pimcore default Pimcore security and user object user provider. The arguments are our class name from the app model data object user, and the attribute we need to define is the username. Okay. The username user field is from our class username. We need to add the password hasher factory, and I call this also simple out security dot password hasher factory, and this security class is the wrong one. I use the Pimcore security hasher factory user aware password hasher factory for our password. Okay, the arguments. We need 2 arguments, and the first one is the Pimcore hasher, no, Pimcore security hasher, Pimcore security hasher password field hasher. And the second parameter is the password field. Okay, so we need to reload the admin interface. And open our class and see, okay, the password field is now this for the hasher. Okay, let's add the security YAML configs, and at the top we need the Pimcore security and a password hasher factory definition. In our case, the app model data object user and the password hasher. Then we need to add our provider, and we need to add the simple out provider, and here we use the service simple out provider. Okay, now we add a firewall, and the firewall is our simple out app firewall, and here I guess this is the right one without the regex. Pattern will be all under \out. Provider is the simple out provider. You can see here we had a form login. Let's open the form twig file, and these are our fields. You can see a login path. So this is the login path. We need a check path and the check path. So we need a login path. For the form login, the login path is defined in our Auth Controller, simple out login. The same with the check path. If you want to check some specials or need to override the hasher, you can change this, but in our case, that's the simple out way. Then we need a logout. So also we have the simple out logout. I guess we need to change the target to out login, and we don't want to invalidate all sessions, so we don't get logged out from the Pimcore admin interface. Okay, we reload Pimcore and see if there is an error. Has a dependency on nothing, not okay, we had there a spelling problem, there needs to be a point. Okay, yes, I open the test user and can see there is no error. Now we can check our login path, and we can see object user provider refresh user return value must be of type user interface null returned. Okay, this is a simple thing. You need to open the Auth Controller, and you can see under the login path we do not have any special code here, but we need to add add here authentication utils param, and also we need a user interface, and we need to add the class, and there also import a class. We import Symfony security class. Okay, The default value of the user is null, so we don't have any user. Okay, first of all, we can check if the user is already logged in. So I use this if the user is available and not null, and we had the access granted to the role user. We redirect directly to the dashboard route. And at the moment we do not have any user, so we open the Symfony toolbar and you can see here is the authentication and they say authenticated no. And now we had here some errors. So we get from the authentication utils the last authentication error. This could be the wrong credentials or something else. And we can return the last username from the login. You can do this, but it's not necessary, and I returned both values to our login twig file. Okay, this looks good. So we can reload our login page. This takes a second and you can see no errors, no authentication, but we are under the Firewall simple auth app because we have here the auth path. Okay, we can check the login. So at the first time we use our test@test.com user and our password is test. Click sign in. So we define here the class alert danger and return our error. Okay, so we reload this. Test.com and password is test, sign in, and we get an error. And you can see the error is bad credentials. So if we had bad credentials, I need to change the password and save and publish. Okay, I reload the page, open the test.com username and the password test, click sign in, and now we redirect it to the dashboard, and in our Symfony toolbar at the bottom you can see there is no firewall actually, because there is no auth. We go to the auth login page. Okay, so you can see our function with granted is possible, and we go to our dashboard controller and prefix it with auth, so we can test the authentication. This takes a shot. Okay, now at the Symfony toolbar you can see test@test.com. We now logged in. The logout we can test here with the actions at the bottom, logout, and I go to the auth logout and we are back at the login. If we go to our dashboard, you can see we had no authentication, but we can't go to this route. This is quite simple to change. We need an is granted here for our user role, and we need to add the class. I open the use state so you can see the component security attribute is granted, and yet we can reload this and we get back to our login. Yes, okay. Maybe the authentication is done with this part, and yes, the error could be better, but this is a further tutorial. Okay, let us add a register. For registration, we had the email address, a password, and a password confirm field. So take a short look at the template, and we can see here the names are without an underscore, and I name it email, password, and password confirm. So the creation of a user was handled by us and not Symfony default. And for the login or form, and now we can change here the type to submit for the save. And when we create here an email address, so admin@test.com, the password we leave it at test, and the confirm password is also test, and we click save, and you can see nothing happens. So we go to our Auth Controller and go to our register, and now we can add a request param, so we get the requests. Okay, this is really simple. Go to this, and now we add on the button, we can add a value, and the value would be submit. Okay. Here under register, we now check if $request get. If our request has a submit, then the form is posted. So we get the password, and request get password. Also we get the confirm password, and this is password confirm. Let me check. Password confirm. Yes. Maybe I copied this in our Auth Controller. Okay. We had now both passwords, and the first check should be, are the passwords the same? If password is not confirmed, we add a flash message. This add flash, and the type of the flash message would be an error, and here we add the text message. Before we check both passwords, we have to check if a password is not empty or confirm password is not empty. And if one of this is empty, cannot be empty. So I add a flash message called password and or password confirm cannot be empty. So let me think. Now we get the user, and this is a Pimcore special. So I get the user object from our app model and load it by username. So get by username and check if our email user, so simply limited by 1, so only the first entry is matched, we returned. And now we can say if user is instance of user add a flash message user name already exists, or user already exists. Okay, what's next? Now we have to check if we have some errors, and this is also if not $request get session get flashback has error. Okay. Do not have any flash messages from the type error. We can now create a user. So I add the user and say new user. And now we create an empty user object. We need to add for the user a set parent ID, and the set parent ID, we go to the Pimcore admin, is our folder. So the ID is maybe 7, and I add here the 7. The next one, what we need is to set published. So we need to publish the object and add this by true. Next, we add a key, and the key is the name of the object in the Pimcore interface. So it's test@test.com. And here we had a service. If you call service, maybe you get an auto, maybe you get some auto completion, and this is a Pimcore model document, Pimcore model asset, Pimcore model data object service. And now we can get a unique key or something else, but we only need a valid key. So we get a valid key, and in our case we had in the request get email, and we need to add a param called the type of the key should be for the objects. Yes, so I save this. Then we need to set the username, and the username is our request get email. Also we had to set the password, and the password is get password, and we don't need the confirm password. We already checked there if it's the same. And after creation of this, we need to save the user object, and we now get under the ID 7 folder users a new user object. This part is quite simple. So you need to define a parent. If there is no parent, you get it under home. And the set publish true if you want to have a published object or not. The key is for naming, and the content, maybe set username, set password, and the save state. And to view what's going on, we add a new flash message called success. User registered successfully. That sounds good for me. And if this done, in this case, we can here return $this redirect to route and redirect to our login route. Okay. Before we test this one, we need to change the login twig file because we don't see any flash message at the moment. I directly edit after the headlines, and this is also a simple twig. If what we need app session dot flashback dot has, and in our case error. Maybe first of all we need the success flashback, and we add also the and if. Okay, now I add the div container called alert success, and we had there a list of our success messages. I loop through the flashback get success message and edit. Okay, and for the errors it's quite the same, so we duplicate this one, change this to error. The alert is danger and not success, also error. The message can we leave as is, and yeah, that's fine. Okay, now we go to our register page. We need to reload the register. We also need a name for this, and the name should be submit value. Maybe change the value to true, and the same here, type sub. No. Okay, so add name submit value true for the save button. Okay, now you can see I had some errors. Password and password confirm cannot be empty, passwords do not match. Okay, I click register and say admin test.com test and test, and now I click save, and you can see user successfully registered. We open Pimcore, refresh the users folder, and you can see the admin test user is there with a username and a password inside. And now we can check the login and test.com, and the password is also test, and we click now sign in. We redirect it to the dashboard, and the firewall says we are the admin at test.com role user. Okay, I log out here and go to the test at test.com, test password, click sign in, and you can see we're the test user. So, okay, it's now finished. After this tutorial, you can add a custom user interface, a dashboard, or what you want. You can change the whole process, like the registration, so you can send emails or something else. This tutorial is the base tutorial for authentication for our next tutorials, and so I hope you like our channel and a thumbs up for the video. Okay, so have a nice day, and feel free to comment in our comment section. Read the description for all links to the files and the other tutorials. Have fun, guys. Bye.